Huge cringe alert for everyone that's into filmmaking. I didn't use ND filters. I didn't understand the concept of frame rates and what they do to the image. So what I did was I cranked up the shutter speed of my camera until the image was well lit. This is not a good thing to do. I didn't understand the frame rates and what they did. So in this video I wanted to break down the most common frame rates and what kind of functions that they have. When I just started out, I got to assist a wedding videographer, and he was using always 60 frames per second. He told me to always do that because you can always recover footage that was a bit shaky or that wasn't, long enough. You can always recover that by dropping the speed by 40 to 50%. You have different situations where you want to use different frame rates. Now I use 25 frames per second for a talking head shot, like this one right here. I use it in situations where other people are talking to each other, for example a vlog or a shot where you follow a person or multiple people. I want to capture this with as real as possible and make it as cinematic as possible. That's why you should use 25 frames per second. I try to plan when shooting B-roll after I interviewed the person or I followed the people that I have to follow. When shooting B-roll, I like to use slow motion. I mostly pick 60 frames per second and also 120 frames per second. Everything with fast movements, then you want to use 120 frames per second. The best thing is when you're shooting handheld, you're getting really into the action and you can slow down when a boxer, for example, is throwing a punch. 60 frames per second is for typical wedding situations, or when someone is walking towards you, or just pouring out a drink, random B-roll stuff. You should use 25 frames per second when shooting an interview, when you follow people and there's audio involved. Then 60 frames per second is for your B-roll, when people are walking or filming the environment. And then 120 frames per second or higher is what you want to use when you're filming a high energy sequence, for example in sports. I forgot to mention that you should double your frame rate when you want to get the most out of your footage. For example, if you're using 25 frames per second, you should have a shutter speed of 1/50th of a second. If you're using 60 frames per second, then you should use a shutter speed of 1/100th of a second, or 120 if you're living in the United States. It has to do with different lighting situations. Most lights here are using 50 Hz. In the USA, they're using 60 Hz. Okay, back to the video. So I wanted to share with you these tips kind of quickly because it's a small takeaway that you might benefit from. See you next time. Bye.